so the catch here is that, notice on the g of x, you're missing some terms in between. You're missing x squared, and you're missing x. When you're doing your long division, you need to insert your placeholders. So I don't have a x squared term, so I'm going to insert a plus 0x squared. I don't have an x term, I need to insert a 0x, okay, because I need to hold the place. And then I have minus 1. So again, you'll start it just like normal. You'll start here with the x, and you'll come over to your side of your work and say, okay, x times something is equal to x cubed. Well, obviously, it has to be x squared, right? Now notice how we inserted our placeholder of 0x squared. Now you see why. Because now I have an x squared here, that needs to go over the x squared term. Okay. Then you'll multiply and subtract. So I have x squared times x minus 1, which is x cubed, minus x squared, and I'll subtract that. And again, notice when I'm subtracting, I put my placeholder of 0x squared in there, so everything's still lining up. And again, we'll still distribute the negative sign and add. So this becomes negative x cubed, and that becomes positive x squared. So when we add here, x cubes are gone, and I'm left with a positive 1 x squared. Okay. Plus 0x minus 1. Okay, so you see the value of putting your placeholder in, because when you subtract it off, I needed to have an x squared term, so I want all my terms to be lined up. If I just put minus 1 here, it gets messy and complicated quickly. So you start over again. So we go x times something equals x squared. Well, obviously that's x. And again, notice I needed that placeholder of the x, so I put my plus x up here. And I'm left with my multiplying, x times x minus 1, which is x squared minus x. And I'll subtract that off. So I'm subtracting x squared minus x. So now I'm going to put in my minus sign and a plus sign, because I distributed the negative. And we'll pick up with our subtraction. So subtracting off, I'm left with x minus 1. And then I start over again. So I say, okay, x times what is equal to x? Well, it's obviously 1. So my positive 1 goes up there. I multiply 1 times x minus 1, which is clearly x minus 1. And I subtract. And again, don't forget to distribute your negative. I know it sounds very trivial here, but it does help. And again, we have a remainder of 0. Okay, now you may also see the conclusion for this thing written up as follows. Conclusion. Okay, x cubed minus 1 over x minus 1, your quotient, is equal to x squared plus x plus 1. By the way, the x squared plus x plus 1 doesn't factor. So if you were writing the factors, you would simply write it as this: x minus 1, x squared plus x plus 1. Those are the factors for x cubed minus 1. Okay? All right, so issues on how to work that. All right, Kaylee, go ahead and cut that again.